Welcome back to Immense Coffee. And today we have an incredible conversation that we're going to be having with my friend Ryan. Ryan's been coming to Nicaragua for multiple years. And not only that, he runs a business that involves Nicaragua and also Canada. So today we're going to hear Ryan's story and we're going to get to see his perspective on what it's been like coming for many years and then also what it's been like starting a business here. So Ryan, welcome today.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Eldon, for having me. My name is Ryan Sell. I'm a first-generation Indo-Canadian based in North Vancouver, Canada. To be honest with you, I never thought I would be in this world of coffee. My family business has been a landscaping and construction company, and that's all I've known my entire life.
Wow.
So essentially, from the age of 11, I was forced to just get out there in the field every single summer, just start digging holes and start putting posts in and essentially work with the guys outside. So that was all I really knew was that was actually my first introduction into work and actually hard work, physical labor.
So your roots really begin in Canada then, when your parents, your family migrated to Canada.
Exactly.
And at what age do you really get introduced to like Nicaragua?
Oof. I would say probably about 25 years old.
Wow, 25 years old,
Yeah.
huh? Not until your mid-20s, huh?
Exactly, yeah. It was not until a few years after my father actually purchased a farm here. So essentially my dad came down in 2012 and there was a gentleman that used to work for us. He was originally from Nicaragua and he hurt his arm when he was working for our company, and then he eventually decided to move over here. And when he came over here, he got my dad to invest in a property, which was the farmland that we purchased back in 2012. And from there, this guy started managing our farm, essentially.
I see.
So sorry.
So it was a big 2012. That's long ago, man. It's over 10 years ago, huh?
Yeah.
And your family still has that farm.
Yes, we do.
And since then, that's how you got your toes dipped into Nicaragua, then, huh, pretty much.
Yeah. So essentially, I came down here. I wanted to just explore and see what we had over here, and I started to work the land. So spent about 2 weeks on the farm, to be honest with you. There was no TV, no internet, nothing.
That was way different 2012. I don't even think people had internet in their home at that point because it was so remote.
This was actually in 2015 when I came down.
Oh, 2015.
So it was a few years after we bought the farm. So I came down here just to kind of like, as I mentioned, just to check it out, see what it was all about. Wanted to work a little bit. So I decided at that time, like, I was going to spend a decent amount of time here.
Yeah.
After that, I spent some time on the farm. I did a little bit of exploring. I went to Omotepe, San Juan del Sur. I never actually traveled to the north, to be honest with you. But yeah, I enjoyed it. But at the same time, I just felt like people, as I was in San Juan del Sur, I just felt like it wasn't really my vibe, to be honest. It was really touristy, which is cool. It works for everybody. But for me, I'm more of like an introvert. I kind of just wanted my space and just wanted to be in nature and that kind of stuff. And
that's a good point. Like when you travel Nicaragua, there's definitely their tourist hubs, you know, and San Juan del Sur is like a big one, you know.
Definitely.
And there's a big expat community, just a bunch of people moving there. So if you come to Nicaragua and you go to San Juan and you only go to San Juan, I don't think you really experience Nicaragua. What's your perspective on that?
I 100% agree with you. You don't get to connect with the people as much.
Exactly. Like you kind of lose the culture of Nicaragua.
Absolutely.
The rawness. What makes Nicaragua special, actually.
You're absolutely right. And what makes Nicaragua special is the people.
The people, right?
Without a doubt.
So you come here in 2015, you start working the land, you travel. And then what are you doing in Canada at that point? Are you working for someone or are you going to school?
Family business.
Family business. You're working for the family business?
Family business, exactly, yeah. So I had finished my schooling at that point, started working for the family business, and I was just kind of doing my thing at that point. I told myself I was going to take some time off and just do a little bit of traveling. But when I came back to Vancouver, essentially I went back and just started working again. So I was just still in the same mindset of just grinding it out with the landscaping company. But until the following year, actually, my friend, he caught wind that I had a farm over there, and his brother was on the National Agricultural Board of Ukraine, and he told me that if you have any samples from your farm, bring them over, and I'll start buying a container a month.
Oh, wow.
And I said, say less.
Samples for what was this, coffee or what was it?
Yeah, it was coffee. Sorry, I
coffee.
didn't mention that. Yeah, coffee's from my farm.
Oh, okay.
But at that same time, I was like, I don't want to fail, because I knew the coffee that I had on my farm's in Boaco, so it's a bit of a lower altitude, like 700 meters above sea level. Unfortunately, we don't produce the best coffee, or at least on my farm, we weren't producing the best quality of coffee. Yeah,
because elevation, and it's hotter weather there, right?
It is, yeah. It's more for like cattle. It's more for cattle farms.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So yeah, as I came back down here, I just didn't want to fail, so I started Googling like top producers in Nicaragua. And at the same time, I was like, okay, I know that there's a coffee called Maracatura here.
Yeah.
That's the gem of Nicaragua. So I started Googling Maracatura, looking for who had Maracatura essentially. I went into the Cup of Excellence website, And I noticed that there was like the top 5 producers there. Some of them had Maracatura,
Yeah.
but a lot of them were in an area called Dipilto.
Uh-huh.
So I had a driver from the year before when I was just touring on my own. I just met him. He was like a taxi driver from the airport.
Yeah.
And I called him up again. I said, hey, would you like to go on a little tour with me to Dipilto? Because I have some names here of people I want to meet with. And at that time, I didn't know any Spanish.
Yeah.
My Spanish was terrible.
Oh, wow. So you're just diving in, exploring with no Spanish?
Speaking to the driver with Google
Oh,
Translate.
man.
Another
That's the way
time,
to do it.
yeah, like it was a bit of a challenge, to be honest with you, because I was really lost in translation. And what I've learned now is when you're able to speak the language, it's so much easier to connect with people. And
Yeah, that's a very good point. It's like it's doable to come out here without knowing Spanish. Like the people will welcome you still, but
oh, without a doubt, they will.
but when you make the initiative to try to speak their language,
Oh, they're so
it just
appreciative.
opens so many other doors, right?
Yeah.
It's a whole different level of connection you have with the people here.
Totally. So yeah, I got my driver. We started going to Dipilto and just started asking people around, like, hey, do you know of any coffee processing mills? And one person pointed us in the direction of Beneficio Las Segovias.
Yeah.
So I popped in there, and there was a woman named Noemi. She was the head of quality control at the time over there. And I didn't know what I was doing. I'd never cupped coffee. I just knew that I was here to find Maracatura because that was going to be the coffee that was going to be my winner.
Oh, got you. So you're looking for like Nicaragua's gem, right? Like similar
Yeah.
to Panama would have its geisha, right?
Exactly.
So Nicaragua has its Maracatura.
Yeah. So I did my first cupping session there. I had no idea what I was doing. She's slowly walking me through the steps of smelling the coffee,
Yeah.
breaking it, and tasting it. Even when I'm tasting it, like, I don't know what I'm tasting.
It's hard to taste coffee if it's your first time. You're
Yeah.
like, all right, it's coffee, you know, but it's
Yeah.
really not coffee at the end of the day once you get down to the knowing everything behind it. But
You're so right.
what happens next? Like being at the Beneficio de Segovia. So to me, it's kind of interesting how you get a call to fill a container, but now you're like down this rabbit hole to see how you can find Maracatura in Nicaragua.
Yeah.
It's like you went in deep pretty quick.
Well, yeah, I was here to win. That was
yeah.
pretty much what I told myself. I wasn't going to fail. So,
Got you. So that's why you decided to go on this adventure, huh? Wow,
Yeah.
interesting. That's pretty cool.
and then after that, actually, I also, there was the person who won the second place in the Cup of Excellence was Don Gonzalo Castillo.
Yeah.
And he was in Dipilto. So, same thing, same driver on the same trip. We just started asking people in the community, oh, have you heard of Don Gonzalo? Have you heard of Don Gonzalo Castillo? And eventually, we just ended up outside of his house.
Wow.
Knocked on his door, and there was somebody taking care of the home at the time, and she mentioned that, oh, he was on the farm. I'll give him a call, and he'll be down in about 10 minutes. So came down, took me up to his farm, and we just kind of walked around, and that was a really cool experience for me because that was the first time I really got to set foot on a farm
Yeah.
and actually see coffee plants and get to see the nature and everything that was all
Wow.
surrounding around coffee.
Here in Nicaragua, it's common that you just ask around and they'll point you to someone's house, right?
Yeah, it was
The
great.
addresses are pretty. There are really no real addresses like you
Yeah.
have in Canada or in the U.S. You know. Now let me ask you this: after meeting him, the coffee producer, what happened next? Like, how did you get all this coffee to get exported out of Nicaragua?
So at that point, there was also another producer actually before that. So I came back to Managua, which is where I was staying.
Yeah.
And then the week after that, I told another producer, or sorry, the same driver, that I wanted to go meet Don Byron Corrales because I had read that he had a score of a 94-point Maracatura on Coffee
Wow,
Review.
94 points.
Yeah, and I figured this guy must have the best Maracatura around.
Yeah, and he's in the Matagalpa, right?
He is in Matagalpa.
Yeah.
So then a few days after, me and the driver went up to Matagalpa, same thing. We just knew he was in Aranjuez. We didn't know exactly where.
Yeah.
Started asking people in Aranjuez if they knew of Byron Corrales and how we could get there. And lo and behold, eventually we just showed up outside of his house and he's standing there. As if it was
wow.
like he was waiting for me.
He was
almost.
waiting. You've been summoned.
And the crazy thing is that he doesn't even go to his farm every single day.
Oh, wow.
I just happened
Crazy
to
how life lines up sometimes, you know?
Yeah, it really is. Like, there's been so many little nudges that I've received along this journey that, like, I just had to kneel into because, like,
Yeah.
I felt like it was the timing was just perfect. And every single time I did kneel into every single one of those nudges, magic happened. It's been
Yeah.
really, really magical. So essentially, yeah, I met him, and then I came back to Managua, and at that point, I was dating this girl, and she was working at a real estate office,
Yeah.
and she had told me, like, the guys in the office want to meet you. So I went down there to just kind of like meet these guys, and then at one point, a bunch of the guys kind of like left, and it was just me and one guy left.
Yeah.
His name was Carlos Mayorga. And
For Mayorga Coffee or no?
no, no,
Oh,
no.
okay, okay.
Carlos Mayorga. He's actually the nephew of Don Joaquin Lovo. Which is
Oh,
what
no way.
Yeah,
And he
it
was all the way in Canada?
He was actually no. This was in Managua, actually.
Oh, in Managua.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this,
yeah,
I was dating a girl in Managua,
Yeah.
and because I was there for like a good 4.5 months.
Oh, I
at this
see.
point.
Okay, okay.
So yeah, so this guy invited me to essentially go on an excursion to go meet some of his friends and go to visit some farms that he also knew. And from there, I developed a team that I figured like, okay, this is like the people who I can kind of trust, and they have some connections in the industry, and I figured that this is kind of like how I'm going to kind of develop my brand in the business.
I see.
So the guy who was on the National Agricultural Board of Ukraine went down to the port, and he got me like a golden ticket, essentially, of like every company that was bringing coffee into the port and the price per pound that they were bringing it in
Yeah.
for. And he said, like, you just got to beat it.
Yeah.
So I opened everything up transparently with the team that I had. I said, hey, this is the numbers I have.
Yeah.
We translated everything into English and just said, we just got to go find some coffees that beat these prices, and we'll split it all up.
Yeah.
So at that point, we connected with some other beneficios, so we could go and try to like negotiate, so to say, some better pricing on coffees. Which now I realize like that's not how I do it. I can't negotiate prices.
Coffee is interesting. There's like cheap coffee, and then there's coffee that you pay more to, so people can make a difference with the more income they get.
Yeah,
right?
make a better impact in the community.
Make a better impact in the community. Like sometimes I get messages, it's like, oh, how much is the pound per coffee? They don't even ask how long have we owned the farm, or like what kind of varietals, you know. It's just more of a
it's like a
an
grocery
income.
store coffee.
Yeah, grocery, but that's not what Ryan does now, you know. But a lot of people do that, right? They're looking for cheap coffee and stuff.
Yeah,
like
it's unfortunate because I really, slowly I hope the perspective changes. But yeah, carrying on. So like I developed this team. I had this golden ticket of what the price per pound we essentially needed to provide for this guy. But then some time went past. Like we got some really good samples. Everything was great. But as the months went on, I never heard back from this guy. I still haven't heard back from this guy, and it's been years.
So the guy from Managua?
The guy from Ukraine.
Oh,
Ukraine. Who wanted to buy the
So
containers.
You don't even know where he went then, huh?
I think I do, but he just never
Wow.
replied to me.
So he got you started on this promise. He was
Yeah.
gonna buy containers, and then he ghosted you.
He completely ghosted
Yeah,
me.
but at this point, you're so far along in your journey to finding coffee in Nicaragua that you can't really back out now. huh?
No, I was like, I'm not going to let this be a wrench in my tracks. Like,
Yeah.
I'm going to keep moving. So
Yeah.
I told myself that with the team, I told them, I was like, hey, I've met these really great producers with my driver. Let's just make like an excursion out there and go connect with them. So we did that again. We connected with Don Gonzalo again. We connected with Don Byron Corrales again.
Yeah.
And I realized like, I'm just going to build my own brand.
Yeah.
So we got a little bit of coffee at the time. We bought some coffees from Gonzalo Castillo, some coffees from Don Julio Peralta, also a cooperative Corcasan, and then also a little bit of coffee from Olam. Unfortunately, some of those coffees that we had purchased were not the same quality as a sample that we had provided. So I had purchased a bunch of coffees in order to connect with a roaster, provided the samples, and the samples are great, everything checked out, but then when the coffee got here, it wasn't the same coffee.
Oh man, that's horrible news.
Yeah,
dude.
it was awful because essentially I bootstrapped everything.
Yeah, you bootstrapped everything, and,
So-
then oh man, it's like buying something and then you get something completely opposite. You're poor. And once you realize this, was this in Canada already?
Oh yeah.
Oh wow.
I
wow.
didn't realize because I didn't know anything about coffee. I didn't
Yeah.
realize this until I gave the sample to the same roaster.
And he's like,
he
it doesn't
rejected
taste the
it.
same.
Yeah.
So Ryan's talking about green coffee right now. So before the roasting. Wow. So how would you resolve that problem?
I didn't actually resolve it for a couple years.
Oh,
I
wow.
had to sell it at a loss. at the
Yeah,
end.
you had to dwindle down the inventory, right? Like sell it under this new tasting profile. And was it less than what you had hoped for?
Yeah, it was actually less than what I bought it for.
Oh,
I
damn.
actually
dude.
literally sold it at a loss. It was awful.
Yeah.
But the next year was even more challenging. And I was like, nah, like I'm here to win. Like,
Yeah.
I'm coming here to win. So next year I was like, okay, all my funds are gone. I had to borrow some money from the bank.
Yeah.
So I could go and actually buy a little bit more coffee. And the next year, so for the first year, unfortunately, I wasn't actually able to work with Byron Corrales because there was a conflict of interest because he was already providing that Maracature to another supplier in Vancouver or close by
I
to
see.
Vancouver.
Yeah.
So with that conflict of territory, he told me that like unfortunately like I
Yeah,
can't work with
he
you
wanted
this
to
year.
respect that line with the other
Yeah,
guy,
which is fair.
It's understandable.
But then yeah, so the next year I like had to essentially kind of work up whatever cash I had to like come back over here. Spent another 4 months over here, but I was so grateful for that connection that I had with Byron Corrales because he was so conscious about the quality that his consumers were consuming.
Yeah.
He really wanted to make sure that the consumers were having the best quality
He
of
wanted
coffee
to protect
possible.
that, huh? Whoever he worked with, he wanted to make sure they were protecting that. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's when I realized, wow, this guy really loves what he does.
Yeah.
And these are the kind of people I want to be working with.
Yeah.
So the next year, we started off actually the first year with just buying 69 bags.
Mm-hmm.
And you could fit 275 in a container. And I didn't even know that we could consolidate. Like I told you, I knew
Yeah,
nothing about
wow.
coffee. My costs were ridiculously high.
Yeah.
69 bags in one container. And
That is wild, dude. 69 bags in one container. That is expensive.
yeah, it was like $1.50 or something
Yeah,
like that just in
usually,
shipping.
usually when there's partial shipments like that, you try to piggyback with other people that are heading the same direction. The fact that Ryan did that and still survived,
Yeah, it wasn't easy, I'll tell you that.
let me tell you, man, you got put through the ringer the first 2 years.
Yeah.
Well, actually, how long has your company been established now?
So I incorporated March 13th of 2017.
Oh, 2017. So we're going on 7 years now, right?
Yeah, it's about the 8th year now.
8th year. And now this phase that we're speaking of, was that like the 2nd year now?
Now we're going to the 2nd year when I was connecting with Byron Corrales again,
I
and I
see.
actually only bought coffees from him because I just felt this real good, like this trust with him, and he
Yeah.
had really incredible coffees. So I just figured like this was my winner.
Yeah, why go chase around it? He has good coffee, good people, right?
Yeah.
And then now, this whole time, you're diving in, doing business with the Nicaraguan people.
Of course.
Not knowing Spanish, and then traveling a country that you're new to. Tell me about that difficulty, and like, how was it? And how does it compare to now that when you come back years later?
I move a lot on vibes, and I really felt like I could trust the people that I had, like the team that I had developed, which is great. So, yeah, it was a little bit easier for me because once again, I also had my ex-girlfriend there at the time,
Oh,
so
okay.
she
So
kind
she
of
was
helped me
helping
like
you?
buffer a lot of the conversations, and also like give me my second kind of boots on the ground to kind
Yeah.
of like help me make decisions a little bit better, and also like vet people out a little bit as well. So
I see.
it gave me that a little bit of a sense of comfort that way.
Okay.
Yeah, not speaking the language was a little bit challenging, but everybody was so warm. That's what I
okay.
loved about it. As soon as you start going up to the north, like
Yeah.
once you leave the San Juan touristy area,
Yeah.
everybody was so welcoming and so warm. That's what I loved about it.
Man,
People,
amazing.
yeah, people just make sure you come in. We'll make you dinner. We'll make you lunch, whatever it is, and like just wanted to serve,
Yeah.
which was just it made me feel really really nice inside, like just really hospitable. I
Yeah.
think is the word.
Wow,
yeah.
dude, awesome.
Yeah.
And then, so you're on year 2 then. So in first year, you take this coffee, you sell it at a loss because you got something completely different. Second year, you're packing one bag in the whole container. And then how did your business progress in third year and fourth?
So for year 2, once again, we went from 69 to 90 bags now.
Yeah.
Still not knowing that I can fit 275 in a container. Still not knowing that I can consolidate with other people. I just used whatever funds we kind of had.
Yeah.
90 bags in. The great thing about working with Byron Corrales was the quality was there.
Yeah.
So I was able to work with some roasters who were really well reputable in Vancouver. And that gave me the leverage to start working with other smaller roasters and grow my business. Because
Yeah.
prior to that, it was an uphill battle. Like Nicaragua was known for quantity over quality. So a lot of the people were buying coffees from like Royal and other like Olam, larger.
Volume. Yeah. A lot of coffee, cheap price. You
Yeah,
know?
like they were paying like $1.20 for it. Where
Crazy.
when I was putting a coffee, even just for $4 Canadian, which is still relatively cheap,
Yeah.
they were just rejecting. They wouldn't even try it.
Wow. Because you just had that much competition with cheap coffee, right?
Cheap coffee, and no one believed me that it was good quality coffee. They just
Wow.
didn't respect the fact that there was quality coffee coming from Nicaragua.
Yeah.
Because
wow.
they had known it as just being like washed blenders,
Yeah.
essentially. So that was the biggest challenge essentially initially, was getting people to actually try the coffee. I'd give samples out. No one would try them. I'd run into roasters like a year later saying, oh yeah, I still have those samples. And I'd just be like, this is...
Wow, that to me it's kind of, I just realized that point you just made, that not only did you have the difficulties of coming to Nicaragua, trying to build the relationship to ship coffee out of here, you also had the next barrier, which would be educating the customer that Nicaragua can produce really good coffee, and that you also had to change like kind of their psychology to get them above the cheap coffee and get you to pay more.
Definitely.
Are you still facing that difficulty now 7 years in, or has it now just been kind of dissolved with all the education that's come around coffee?
To be honest with you, we pioneered it. We
Yeah.
pioneered the face of Nicaraguan coffee in Canada.
Wow, that's amazing. And what was it like? What part of Canada specifically?
Vancouver.
Vancouver, wow.
Specifically, yeah. We pioneered it by essentially changing the scene and changing the perspective of Nicaraguan coffee in Canada. And I think that was all because of honestly, a lot of it came through our social media.
Yeah.
And putting people first. And also showing people like where the coffee really comes from, because not many importers were really boots on the ground, doing the stuff, putting the stuff on the social medias that we were doing, for people to actually see what actually happens here at origin.
I see. Wow, incredible, man. I think that's amazing that you open people's eyes, because to me, the way I look at Nicaragua is like the underdog, right? Out of all the countries, right? Some people are scared of coming here because what they see in the news. Some people think it's dangerous, you know, but it's actually the complete opposite when you come in here and submerge.
You're absolutely right.
And then majority of the people don't know that Nicaragua produces delicious coffee.
Yeah.
You know, so you kind of have to break that barrier and change it.
Yeah.
Now, where are you now with the relationships that you have created these past years?
Honestly, it's like family. Like
Yeah.
we're here. I think I had been right now. This is like my second home every single time I come here.
We're a beautiful farm in Dipilto. Actually, we're close to the border with Honduras.
Yeah, we can actually see the border from
Yeah,
right here.
we can see the border from here, and we're actually having a tropical storm go by Honduras right now. So it's been 3 days of rain, right?
Yeah, it's been torrential drainpour.
Yeah, it's been straight rain for 3 days, but it is lush green here, and it is beautiful right now. So right now you have like family connections. How many producers are you working with right now?
So this year we work with 15 producers.
15.
Yeah,
okay.
so we're working with, I think there's 12, I'm just doing this off the top of my head,
Yeah.
12 small producers.
Yeah.
And then 3 medium-sized producers.
And what parts of Nicaragua do you buy coffee from?
All around, to be honest, all the producing areas, but more or less we buy from Dipilto, Mozonte, Jalapa, San Fernando, Jinotega, and Matagalpa.
Oh, okay, the big, just almost everything. I mean,
Yeah.
there's San Juan de Rio Coco too. I've never been there. Have you ever been there?
I have
Jason?
actually, yeah.
Oh,
to
really?
Madriz. Actually, there's a really cool farm out there, Finca Los Angeles.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we visited them. They actually own the coffee shop De La Finca
No way.
over here in Managua.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, we visited them. They were really cool people. And also, the first year I actually purchased some coffee from San Juan de Rio Coco. I bought 10 bags of a cooperative that were based there. That was actually the best coffee we had.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a phenomenal coffee.
And now how has coffee progressed from 2015 to now here in Nicaragua? What have you seen?
So I saw a big boom of processes at one point. I think that was largely influenced by Costa Rica. A lot of people started doing honeys and naturals, and I noticed that that was probably the biggest change from the beginning. People started progressing into different types of anaerobic processes and really starting to play and play with different profiles and yeah, just to achieve like different flavors in their coffee.
Yeah.
I noticed that that was kind of like what was starting out back in maybe about 2018, 2019. But what I see now is it's actually slowly starting to regress back into the wash, clean coffees again.
Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, I'm starting to notice that too. It was like a big boom in experimenting what flavors you can get out, which was great, right? Because it led to advancing the specialty in Nicaragua, right?
It opens the minds of so many people of what's possible.
Yeah, because you would have a washed coffee, and then you would ferment it differently, and it would just be different flavors, and people would like, wow, we can produce this.
Yeah.
But now it's coming back to washed.
Yeah, I feel like it's coming back into wash. Well, me personally, maybe because that's what I'm looking for now.
Yeah.
I used to be all about these funky processes,
Yeah.
but I realized, like, as time went on, like, I couldn't drink anaerobic coffee every single morning.
It's
you know
too
what
much,
I mean?
dude. Yeah. It's like eating dessert in the morning. You know?
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
exactly.
you want a coffee, you want something that's balanced, has a little bit of a kick to it, like
A little
good
bit of
flavor.
sweetness,
a
yeah.
little bit of sweetness, and a washed is perfect for
It's
that.
perfect for that. And
But-
you can get some really interesting flavors out of washed coffee.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. Like, even though it's washed, you can still hit those top-notch flavors. You know?
You could get pineapple notes, mango notes, all those kinds of things just from a washed coffee. And that's all coming from the terroir.
Yeah.
It's all coming from the soil at the end of the day.
Wow.
So this has incredibly fertile soil in all of this country. It's really, really impressive. So I really think that people should just kind of like focus on their baseline of what they actually have and just kind of double down on that. Also from a producing perspective, it's a lot easier to sell those coffees because there's a lot less risk. Because
Yeah.
if you produce a bunch of a natural process, for one, it can go bad very quickly. It can over ferment, and then all of a sudden you have to sell that coffee locally. And you
Yeah,
won't
it's
be able to-
niche. You're niching down when you do that, and you're running a lot of risk. You know?
Yeah, and like if you run into a surplus, like not many people are going to be interested in actually picking
Yeah.
that coffee up. So you're going to, a lot of the times, you're going to end up selling that coffee at the local price or a lot lower than what you're expecting
And
to.
I think what a lot of producers don't realize is that when you do like naturals, so you don't depulp the coffee, your transportation costs go through the roof. Because
Very
now
true.
you're pulling cherries out of the mountain, and so your volume, you have to pull more volume. That means more trips. That means more weight on your truck, more gas.
Yeah.
When you do a wash, you can fit more coffee in your truck, so you can efficiently pull coffee out. You know. So,
Yeah.
So
And there's a lot less risk of over fermentation.
yeah,
and
there's a
just
lot
like
less risk. Yeah.
cherry splitting, you know,
Yeah.
even the transportation of like it of being a heavy rainfall while you're
Yeah,
transporting it or
exactly.
something like that. Cherry swelling, because essentially like if there's a big rainfall, the cherries are going to swell up. A lot of the sugars that were kind of like you were hoping were getting impregnated into the bean are actually going right back into the cherry now.
Yeah.
So then like the whole thing that you were trying to essentially achieve is not working.
Crazy. Now let's go back to Canada. So
Okay.
right now you have your foot in Nicaragua and then your foot in Canada. So first of all, we didn't even mention to the people the name of your coffee brand.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah.
The name of the brand is Lafa Distribution.
La
And
Finca.
the reason for why it's called La Finca is because when I first came to Nicaragua, as I told you, when I first came to my farm, I was just spending some time visiting and just like, working the land essentially.
Yeah.
And then when we got back to Managua with the guy who was working, like that was managing the farm,
Yeah.
I just was like spending time with him and one of his cousins. We sat down with some of his friends, and they said they were speaking in Spanish. I didn't really understand what they
Yeah.
were speaking because, of course, I didn't understand the language. But I was fluent in French, so I kind of could pick up some things here and
Yeah.
there. So one of the ladies said, "Oh, like essentially, I guess like she had asked him like where did they come from," and his cousin said, "Today we came back from La Finca. Like hoy nosotros regresamos desde La Finca."
De la finca, sí.
And I was like, La Finca? She's like, oh, from La Finca. And I was like, La Finca? Like, what does that mean? I was like, wait, La Finca, the farm? That was the first word that I kind of comprehended and like put together.
Oh, yeah.
La Finca means the farm.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, that's a really cool name. That's like the first word that I really like comprehended and understood that I
Yeah.
figured like, I need my brand this, La Finca.
I like it, dude.
And La Finca Distribution is cool because like essentially we're distributing coffee from all the fincas in Nicaragua.
Yeah. And so so Viva la Finca though? I seen a Viva la Finca, so that's the same brand as like Finca La Distribution, just a different name.
Yeah, Viva La Finca is essentially the Instagram handle.
Okay, it's an Instagram. I like it. Yeah. Yeah.
I got that because like, I just thought it was cool. To be honest
No,
with you.
to be honest, I love that name, dude.
Thanks.
And then especially with coffee, names are hard to come by because almost all names are taken now. There's
Yeah.
so many micro roasters, there's so many importers, so it's difficult to come up with something unique tied back to the place you're pulling the coffee from. So,
So
definitely
true.
dig that name. Now, what's does the future look for Viva La Finca right now in Canada? Like, what are you pushing for, let's say, these next 10 years?
So for the next 10 years, essentially, we're going to continue to work with small producers.
Mm-hmm.
That's the key for us right now is providing sustainable options for these small producers that we're working with. We've also started a side brand called Second Chance Coffee, essentially, where we purchase all the seconds of a lot of the producers that we're working with already, so we can make and provide them a more sustainable wage rather than selling it at the local price, to give them another second chance of receiving a sustainable harvest.
Uh-huh.
And then we purchase that coffee, we roast it, and we sell at the grocery store. Because it's not the same quality that we sell to other roasters.
It's a second pass,
it's
basically.
yeah, it's a second pass. So
Yeah.
it's still really competitive and it's still a delicious coffee, but it's more of like a grocery store coffee. And we want to provide that more to the masses to get that out
That's
to
amazing.
everybody.
So keep pushing Viva La Finca green coffee, and then push your roasted brand of Second Chance coffee.
Exactly. And now we got a really cool opportunity to open up a little cafe this summer.
Oh,
So
nice.
we're
Viva
gonna
La
be doing
Finca
that.
Cafe?
Yeah.
Oh, man. That's
So
I
we're gonna
gotta
be
go
doing
to
that,
Canada now.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
actually a beautiful spot. It's in the middle of Chinatown. It's a really, really cool background. It feels like a sanctuary when you walk around there.
Oh, my God. Amazing. That
Yeah.
is spectacular. And now, in terms of the people, are they embracing Nicaragua more over there?
Definitely.
Do you still see some more work to be done, though, in terms of like educating people and telling the story?
Always.
Always?
There's
Yeah.
always work to be done in this industry because if you say that you know everything, you're
Yeah.
a liar. I'll be honest with you. Like I'm learning something every single day.
Yeah.
Every single time that I'm walking around the farms, I'm learning something new, and that's something that I just want to share with everybody else because once I came over here, I realized like my learning got accelerated like 10x.
Yeah.
I went back to Vancouver and I realized like, whoa, people are just like doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And they're only really learning what people are writing on the internet.
Yeah.
Where I'm learning like from flower to cherry, it's gonna take 210 days to ripen and all these like different like intricacies of actually producing coffee that like I figured like nobody has ever really been exposed to, but they're all like little important factors that play into the role of the final cup of coffee.
Wow,
So
man, amazing.
I strongly believe that I got to keep enforcing the education aspect of what we're doing, and also keep promoting the communities that we're working with, so more people can hopefully purchase our coffee and support the communities also that we're working with.
Beautiful, man. I have to say, I have to take my hat off to you because you faced so many difficulties at the beginning of your endeavor here with starting this, you know. So, and then you persevered through that, and now you're establishing in Canada very well, and now you're potentially opening a cafe, got a second brand, and all through this relationship coffee, you know. Talk to me a little bit about coffee in general, and what does relationship coffee mean to you versus like the commercial coffee, cheap coffee that you see at the store?
So the first thing is I never negotiate prices. After that whole first year, I realized that like after you start to meet the people who are actually producing the coffee and have good conversations about the difficulties that they face, you realize that you should never put a value on 365 days of their work.
Yeah, you're right.
So I always approach a producer whenever somebody asks me like, oh, how much can you pay for this? It's always like, no, you put the price. I only want to work with price setters.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the price setter.
Yeah.
If they set
That's a beautiful point of view, because if you come over here try to negotiate 30 cents, to you it's a small margin you win, but for them it's a bigger margin because 30 cents to $1 here goes 10x more, you know? So
you're absolutely right.
wow, that's like actually a good perspective.
Working with price setters essentially, it gives me the opportunity to, well, it puts a little bit more risk on my shoulders, but it kind of puts a little bit of fuel under me.
Yeah.
I got to sell this. If I win, I win. If I lose a little bit, I lose a little bit.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the people that I'm working with are secure, which
Yeah.
is the most important, because there's a lot of lack of security, whether it be from financial, like actually majority of it comes from financing, from bank financing, and like
high interest rate, you know,
the
like
interest rates are ridiculous.
they kill you over here, you know?
Not being able to pay for fertilizers and that kind of
Yeah.
stuff, to be able to actually have a healthier harvest the next season, to continue to grow coffee.
Yeah.
There's so many risks that come involved with producing high quality specialty coffee that I just want to make sure that they can continue to do that every
Man.
single year.
So in terms of relationship coffee, you make sure you pay well, right?
Always. Yeah, I always make sure that they set the price so I can make sure that they find the value in their own work rather than me put value to their work, because like I told you, I'm not here all year round.
Yeah,
they're
you're
here.
right.
They're picking in weather like this, you know. They're
It's
on
crazy.
walking up these steep hills that like I'm like gassed out by walking up like 5
Yeah,
feet, you know.
if you ever go to a coffee farm, I think you appreciate what people go through, you know?
I actually tried to do an experiment where I lived the life of a picker one day, and I woke up at 4 o'clock. I went over, got my canasta, had my breakfast. I walked up to the mountain where everybody was picking, had my breakfast with everybody, picked for a few hours. To be honest, I didn't spend the whole day. Threw all the coffee on my back, walked back down the mountain. I realized like, wow, I had so much more appreciation for what everybody was doing, because it's not easy.
Oh man, dude, that would be a good YouTube video. We gotta redo that video, put it on our channel, you know?
That's actually
we should go to we should do that. That'd be cool, huh?
Yeah, I'd
like
love
a
to do that.
documentary on that. That'd be amazing. And most people don't realize how hard it is. Crazy to hear your approach, how it changed from the beginning when you were trying to compete for prices.
You can't nickel and dime.
Yeah,
man.
and now you kind of realized, and now you're actually letting people set their price. So that shows a lot, you know.
But that also came with the growth of the company on the Vancouver end, because before I couldn't sell coffee for the same price as I'm
That's true.
selling
So
it
you
for.
had to break that barrier over there,
Right.
and let people tell people this is why you need to pay more for coffee.
You're right. And also, like I said, like you work with some really well-known roasters, then people that have influence is the word I'm looking for. They have a bit more influence in the industry over there. So a lot of smaller roasters who love their coffee will then kind of seek out our coffee as well, because we're supplying a larger roaster that they also are inspired by. So slowly by slowly, working with bigger and bigger roasters, working with more and more companies, continue to grow horizontally.
Man, that is such a great story. We also do have some coffee today here.
Yeah, we do.
What coffee do you have for us today that we're going to try?
So this is a really interesting coffee.
Yeah.
It's a natural heirloom on our friend's friend named Udoro Guyen.
Oh,
It's his
Udoro
farm.
Guyen, yeah.
Yeah.
He has the same last name as me.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, people say that we're related somehow, but I only met him 2 years ago, so I'm not sure about that. But
He's a solid dude.
Yeah.
He produces a lot of coffee, and this variety he calls it Nicatopia.
Oh, Nicatopia.
So essentially what it is, it's a natural Ethiopian heirloom
Oh, yeah.
that he discovered on his farm.
Wow.
So he had a plantation of geisha,
Yeah.
and one of the plants just didn't look the same as the others. So he sent it over to France to get it tested.
Yeah.
And once it got tested, it came back as something between a geisha and a whoosh whoosh.
Wow.
But what they discovered was it was actually more of an Ethiopian heirloom.
Wow.
So for that purpose, they put it Nicatopia for
I like
Ethiopia.
the name, dude. Nicatopia. Amazing.
Yeah.
All
So-
right, let's get to brewing then.
All
All right, it's my lucky day today. I have a personal barista with me here, so we're gonna go ahead and start brewing here, Ryan.
All right, so just touching back on relationship coffee again and what that means to me. Yes, setting the price is really important, but also I feel that walking the land and actually walking on the farms with the producers and really seeing where the coffee comes from is just as important. The producers I work with grow some more appreciation into what I'm doing because
Yeah.
what I feel like is a lot of these keyboard importers, they're just sending emails. They don't really know where the coffee's come from. They've actually never met the producer in many of the cases.
They're just trading on margins, trying to make margin.
Exactly. They ask for samples, get the coffee, they try it, it's good, they send some money, and there's a large disconnect there. They don't actually get to see or walk the land and see where the coffee's
Yeah,
actually
and the
coming
farmers
from.
notices that, the people that come actually visit them,
Totally,
That's
yeah.
a good point.
They-
Now, tell me about what's the producer you've been working the longest with?
The producer I've been working the longest with actually is Luis Rubio, where we are right now.
Yeah, where we're at right now. This beautiful Airbnb actually. He puts it online and coffee farm too. So
So I was actually his very first buyer.
wow.
So he had never exported his coffee anywhere else. He was just selling it locally.
yeah,
And being his first buyer, I just figured that, okay, I'm going to buy everything he has just
Yeah.
to make sure that he can secure his harvest every single year.
wow.
And ever since then, we've been doing the same. So we've been buying all the coffee he has, whether it's good, whether it's bad. Sometimes, there's a hard rainfall and
Yeah,
there's
it's difficult because you have to work with the weather. Like right now, it's raining so much that harvest is probably gonna come in quicker now because the cherry will ripen faster.
Exactly. So the crazy thing actually was the very first year I met Luis Rubio, we cupped some of his coffees. They were good, but I just didn't have enough money to buy it at the time.
Yeah.
So I told him, I was like, hey, unfortunately, I just don't have the money to pay for this
Yeah.
right now, but let's keep working together. And he had done some honeys, not some honeys, he had done some wash and some naturals at that time. So I sent him a video that I found on the internet of some carbonic maceration. It was like
Yeah.
a step-by-step process of how to do it. And then that same harvest, by the time before I had left actually, before I went back to Vancouver, with his third pickings, he told me that he had already done the process.
Wow.
So he had already experimented with the carbonic maceration. So unfortunately, I didn't get to try it at that time. But then when I came back the next harvest season, I had cupped his coffee at about 82, 83
yeah.
the year before. Came back, he had done all of his coffees as carbonic maceration. His coffees were scoring at about 86, 87.
Wow,
There was a
that's a big point.
significant jump.
Those are for people that aren't too into coffee. Those points come on the scoring system to see how good the coffee is. Anything above a 90 is just exceptional, out of this world, and 80 and above, I think it's good coffee.
It's
but-
considered specialty.
Yeah, it's considered specialty. But the fact that he was able to go from an 82 to an 86, it's a
It's
4-point jump.
outstanding.
Yeah, it
It's
goes
not
to
easy.
show, yeah. So did you end up buying that coffee?
I
that
did.
year?
I bought everything he had from that point on, and I still have been buying everything he has available.
So when it comes to brewing coffee, you have to be delicate with it because you can definitely mess the coffee up if you don't brew it correctly.
I went a little bit over by about 2 grams, so sorry.
Oh, it's all right. It's all right.
So yeah, every single year we're focused on a new little project.
Cheers, brother.
Yeah, cheers.
Cheers to you guys.
Cheers.
You this far along in the video, you are a champion. If we see
thank
you
you.
in person, we'll give you a cup of coffee.
Definitely.
Wow.
It's different from a Caturra. It's a little bit more floral. It's got
The
a nice
body is so light.
yeah.
It
It's got,
almost like dissipates in my tongue. Like it just like
it's got a really nice kind of aftertaste, sort of like a cooked sugar, sort of caramelized
very
aftertaste.
floral, yeah, delicate, How would you say the body of this coffee? Would you say it's like a thick body or more like a light
I would say it's a bit of a loose, a silkier body,
silkier body?
rather
is
than a
good-
smoother body.
Yeah, rather than the smoother. But what would you say in coffee when you drink something and you feel it like full bodied, right? Is that a characteristic you would
Yeah.
say?
So essentially, when you're grading, like when I took the Q course, there's a scale,
Yeah.
an intensity scale, and it's based out of like 5 points. or I guess because there's little halves as well along the way.
Yeah.
And if you go from anywhere from 0 to about the midway point, it's going to be silky. And if you go anywhere from the midway point to the heaviest body, it would be more of a smoother body. So
I see.
I would consider this, yeah, more silky in that
Silky.
aspect.
Wow. Tastes delicious out of the beautiful mountains of Nicaragua here.
So yeah, once again, every single year we're trying to focus on a new little project. This year we're putting our money aside to get a sample roaster for him so he can continue to grow out his lab that he has here.
Oh, awesome. That would be good. Sample roasters are important at farm level. And I think we're starting to see that trend come in where producers are wanting to sample their own coffee before they ship it anywhere, you know?
And technology is so great that we get to share the profile. So he gets to try the same coffee the same way that I get to try the same coffee.
That's a good point. Yeah, there's been advancements. Before it was all this like old barrel roaster that was from like the 70s. That to replicate the recipe and roasting that coffee was so difficult, you know? But now they sell these units the size of a laptop that you can just put it on there, put the recipe, and then you're cooking coffee, you know?
Yeah,
and
you just hit the button essentially.
The
you
same
got the
recipe
app.
gets in Canada, I can get in Nicaragua. So.
And now even with water too, like there's little packets of perfect water and stuff like that, minerals that you can put in distilled water.
Yeah.
So we can actually taste the same flavor of the coffee as well because it has the same, like the perfect amount of mineral content in the water that you need for brewing a good filtered coffee. And we get to just essentially, try coffee the exact same way over here and over there in Canada.
Beautiful. I need you guys to comment below. Did you know this much about coffee? I feel like we dove deep into coffee. We talked about Nicaragua, you know, which is awesome. We're going to end the conversation here. I feel that Ryan has overcome some difficulties with starting a business in Nicaragua. So definitely I congratulate you on that sense.
Thank you very much.
If people want to find you, how can they find you?
They can find me. My personal Instagram is rye.cell. Or they can check out our YouTube, which is Viva La Finca, and also our company page, which is Viva La Finca on Instagram and Facebook as well.
So if you have roasters that are want to connect with you, they can reach out to if they're looking for green coffee?
Definitely, yes.
Wow.
There's a link in our Instagram where you could either send us a message or you could just send us a DM and we'll definitely
And
connect
then
with you
the
right
Second
away.
Chance Coffee, where can you find Second Chance Coffee?
Second Chance Coffee, you can find it Save on Foods in Lougheed area, which is in Burnaby right now, and slowly we're expanding out to other grocery stores. So stay tuned, and you'll probably see that in a grocery store near you.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, share this video so we can continue to grow this immense coffee movement. Cheers and blessings. Is your Coffee Familia signing off.